So, is it that time in your life yet? Do you feel like your family is complete and you and your spouse want to not worry about changing that? Well, the decision can be difficult, but the recovery doesn't have to be. After your vasectomy, you gotta get testes. Doctors usually recommend a jockstrap and ice for your boys to help with comfort. Well, testes is the best of both worlds. This is for the man who is out on the go and needs to get things done. You get the ice packs from the freezer, strap up, and saddle up. The packs give you at least 20 minutes of comfort, even if you're just sitting around watching the game. And most important, guys, no wet spots. Put on the jockstrap under your briefs and go about your day. They come in 3 sizes, medium, large, and extra large to get your right fit. Now head on over to testes.com. That's TEST-EEZE.com. TEST-EEZE.com. Your wife is going to thank you for the snip, and your testes are going to be thanking me. Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and join in the discussion. Don't forget dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com in case you have any more lengthy topics you want to bring up. And you can find me personally, Slim Dayspring 12, on Twitter and Instagram. What's up, guys? Hope you are enjoying your weekend and started off right. It is Monday here in Austin, Texas. Had a very good weekend. Me and my family went to Galveston for the weekend, spent a couple days at the beach, relaxed, enjoyed ourselves. I might have had a couple too many drinks sitting poolside while I stared at the ocean. That's just what happens when you have a nice, relaxing trip. Oh well, I had a good time. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. So normally, for those of you who don't know, what happens here is I go through topics that I and you have posted on the Dayspring Discussions social media accounts. I usually go through like my top 3, and I'll pick out ones that I feel like I have a little bit more grasp on. Maybe I want to expand a little on, and I talk about them. And of course, you guys fire back, and we have a discussion about it. However, left for trip on Wednesday. My mind was a little preoccupied, so I can't remember a lot of stories that came out last week. So what I'm going to do is talk about one thing and one thing alone. And I think I should have a pretty good time filling the minutes on this one. And that is The Suicide Squad, the newest DCEU, I guess we could still call it that, film came out this past weekend. Directed by James Gunn, the guy who made famous for directing Guardians of the Galaxy over at Marvel. He's come over to do DC on this one. And there's a lot to unpack in this movie, I feel, not only with the movie itself, but also kind of the history of how this film came to be. So first off, I'll let you guys know, I do spoilers. So if you have not seen the film yet, it's pretty easy to access. You can either go in theaters or hop on HBO Max and watch it. But I go full spoilers, even the post-credit scenes, all that stuff. So you have not watched it and don't want to be spoiled, pause, come back, watch the movie, and then you can share your thoughts along with mine. And I was a little bummed out because I knew this movie was coming up and we had a family vacation planned, so I wasn't going to be able to see it right away on Friday. I could have easily hopped on HBO Max and watched it on my tablet, but I didn't want to do that. This is the kind of movie that, I want to see in theaters, at least the first time initially. That's just how it's got to be. I'm very big about that. Even though HBO Max and Warner Brothers are there and they're doing the whole day and date release with almost all their films this year, the ones that, are blockbusters or should definitely be seen in theaters, I want to see in theaters like Dune coming up. I definitely, want to see Dune on the biggest and loudest theater screen and sound possible to get the full experience, because it looks like that's what it's meant to be, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I did with Suicide Squad. So before I dive in too much, I'm going to give kind of general census or general thoughts about the film. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I didn't think it was perfect. It did have a few things that, I didn't enjoy about it. Number one, I thought it was maybe just a little bit too long. 15, 20 minutes, maybe a little too long. Some things dragged out a little bit that, probably could have been condensed a little. And then the music. Now, I know Gunn is known for his soundtracks, especially with the two Guardians of the Galaxy films. I understand that's kind of his thing. But, when it was music after song after song after song after song, it just kind of took me out of it a little bit, how much they really changed songs and were playing pop songs throughout it too. So it took me out a little bit of that. Those are kind of my two big gripes. Story-wise, I don't think I really had any really things that were wrong with it, at least in my opinion. But the road to get to The Suicide Squad has been pretty bumpy. Now, The Suicide Squad is what you have to call this film, because there was another film that came out back in 2016 called Suicide Squad. Now, technically, this is supposed to be a not-so-pseudo sequel, I guess, to that one. You do have recurring characters and actors such as Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. You got Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag. You even got Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. People that were in the Suicide Squad movie alongside Will Smith as Deadshot. That film financially did really good, actually. Critically-wise, it didn't do so good. Now, that film was kind of a casualty, so to speak, of the early regime of Warner Brothers trying to figure out their DC cinematic universe. By 2016, of course, Marvel was up and running. By that time, you already had 2 Avengers films. They were wrapping up Phase 2 at that point. And, of course, Warner Brothers having access to all the DC characters really were trying to mimic the success that Marvel was having with the MCU. They saw the big dollar signs. Warner Brothers like, hey, we got the 2 biggest superheroes, in the world, Superman and Batman, along with a lot of others, so we should be making that money too. And of course, they handed off to Zack Snyder, and things happened to kind of affect the way that first Suicide Squad movie came about. Mainly, David Ayer, who is the director of the film and directed other films that I have enjoyed, such as Fury. Thought was one that I really enjoyed. I had total faith in him in directing that movie. Ayer has been pretty vocal that, once Man of Steel and Batman v Superman came out and didn't do the success or the numbers that Warner Brothers wanted to do, they were trying to change up strategies a little bit, not only with the upcoming Justice League film, but also Suicide Squad. And Ayer was actually locked out of the editing room. Warner Brothers allegedly brought in a trailer company to re-edit the film without him there. And of course, as of late, Ayers has, again, resurfaced saying that the cut of the film that he made, or the film that he wanted to make, is not what we saw. Saying he would love to do his own cut of it. A lot of fans, honestly, I would love to see it too, because, again, I think David Ayer is a good director. I think there is potential in that movie, but that's not the movie we got. So while, again, financially it did do successful to have Warner Brothers warrant take another crack at Suicide Squad, I didn't enjoy it, and apparently a lot of other people didn't enjoy it either. But that's neither here nor there. The DC, cinematic universe has kind of lived in the shadow of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having been a little more successfully financially, and perhaps maybe getting a more loyal fan base, maybe. Or not really loyal, but bigger fan base. Like, my wife kind of gave up on the DC films, where she still goes to see all the Marvel films, to kind of put that in perspective. And now to our director, James Gunn, of course, directed two successful films for Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And on Twitter, he is a very outspoken liberal. In which case you have groups out there, not to get political, that, take people that have opposing views of them, go through years and apparently decades of social media writings and pictures and all that stuff, and try to find stuff to hurt a certain person who has opposing views of them. And that's what happened to James Gunn. Someone got a picture of him from a Halloween costume or a party 10 years ago, I think is what it was. I think it was even dressed as like a nun or a priest or something offensive that offended some people. I don't know. But anyway, of course, it caused the controversy, and the head of Disney Films fired James Gunn just as he turned in the script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, this, of course, was somewhat shocking, but also that means that James Gunn was up for grabs, and all the studios wanted to work with him. Warner Brothers, even, they said they pitched him all their film ideas and said, you can do whatever you want. You can even work on Superman. They told him that. And he decided he wanted to take a crack at Suicide Squad. And that's how he got involved in that project. But then later on, of course, Disney and Marvel came back and said, hey, come back and do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That whole shenanigans is something that I really don't want to get into because it's something that I'll probably go off on another tangent about. And I will just not get in that. Skip over to say it's a little messed up how he got to be director of the Suicide Squad. But I'm glad he did because, like I said, I enjoyed this film. And I think, the idea of after seeing Guardians of the Galaxy and how he handled these obscure, weird characters and, brought them to light, him directing a Suicide Squad film, which is kind of the same thing, characters that are lesser known compared to, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, maybe a little more odd, putting them in there and making a film work, I think was the perfect guy for another Suicide Squad movie. And the whole film is definitely an ensemble piece, of course. It's how it works. And in the promos, we were promised, an eclectic crew of characters. We have Peacemaker, we have TDK, Javelin, Captain Boomerang, Mongal, Weasel, just a whole bunch of characters that I hadn't even heard of, some of them really. So it was very odd to say the least. But again, it all works towards the ensemble. I will say though, of course, when you got all these characters showing up to the beach and then they get ambushed, you knew a lot of them weren't going to make it out. And only a handful of them were going to survive the first half hour of the film. And it was one of those things where Michael Rooker's character, Savant, was kind of the first character introduced, and kind of his perspective is what we follow those first 10-15 minutes of the film. So the fact that he dies very early on in the film was a little odd. But then, of course, we get introduced to Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport. And, if you're the casual movie-going fan, you could almost, think that this is the exact same character that Will Smith played in the original Suicide Squad film. I mean, the character's, an excellent marksman and trained, warrior. Very similar, if not the exact same, if you didn't know the difference. But there is a difference, and the film kind of falls on him and kind of goes through his perspective throughout it. And, of course, Idris Elba, excellent actor, and he does a fine job playing this character. I love him playing off of John Cena's Peacemaker for this, and how they're kind of in competition with each other for the first half of the film. John Cena, not the strongest actor. And when they said they were going to do a Peacemaker spinoff after this film, I was a little hesitant, of course. It's, like I said, Cena not probably the best actor. So the fact that they were to do a series of some kind on HBO Max following him, okay. The trailers and the previews, made it seem like he was very comical, pretty funny, but can you center a show around this? And I'll comment on this saying that after watching The Suicide Squad, I honestly do not have an interest in a Peacemaker TV show, movie, whatever they're going to do. The main reason being not because really John Cena, but because I don't like the character. Because, spoilers, he, betrays the team, he's the type of character I kind of see him as kind of a punisher. He's willing to kill as many people as he has to get the job done. He's okay with casualties and whatever it takes to keep the peace, as he says. But so he turns against his team, he kills Rick Flag. It just is a character that I don't see myself jumping into and liking as far as a lead for a series. Now, you could kind of play devil's advocate a little bit and say that, yeah, he didn't want to have to kill Rick Flag, and he almost killed Ratcatcher too, but he didn't want to do that either, especially when he was calling Flag a hero, and that, he respected him, so he didn't want to do it, but he had to keep the peace, as I do quotations here. But still, that makes him an asshole in my book, so I don't want to see this guy. It's kind of for the same reason, again, the Punisher Netflix series, he's never been my type of character that I've enjoyed. So, I think I watched the first season. I think I finished the first season of Punisher. I don't remember, but I did not watch the second season just because, again, that character is not my cup of tea. So with the fact that, we know about him being a more villainous type, I don't see myself enjoying a Peacemaker TV series. I'll check it out, of course. I'll give it a chance. It's, DC. It's part of the comic book genre that I like to enjoy, so I'll at least check it out and give it a chance. I don't see myself enjoying it really, but we'll see about that. Now, what I would have enjoyed probably would have been, of course, the post-credit scene. They have him alive at the end, but if he would have stayed dead and you would have told me that the series or whatever they're working on was going to be a prequel about how he became the Peacemaker that we know and how he ended up in prison and all that, I'd be kind of interested in something like that. I really would. But they showed him alive at the end in the post-credit scene. So it was like, this guy who he's, become, I don't like that guy. And I really don't want to follow his adventures. Especially after he killed Rick Flag. I mean, I will give it to Gunn. Killing so many people in the film, I kind of expected a lot of them. Even, Savant dying wasn't that big of a surprise because it was so early in the film. There were certain characters I thought were going to be safe. I thought Bloodsport, of course, being our main character, was safe. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, she's a key character in the DC cinematic universe. I knew she was going to be safe. Ratcatcher 2 was too adorable to kill from that perspective, so I don't see them killing her. And of course, Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag was one of the characters I thought was safe, but, I think, killing him definitely shook things up a little bit. Killing, a recurring character, the leader of the squad, if you will, definitely shook it up. And of course, even towards the end, as they were fighting Starro, you thought, the remaining 5 might be safe, but then again, they go and they kill Polka-Dot Man too. But that was kind of, from the second he said, "I'm a superhero," you kind of knew he was about to die. And another thing about this film is, there were a lot of parts that were kind of telegraphed for me where I could see, it was something serious going on or something was about to happen to break up the moment. A lot of movies do that too. I've just seen too many movies in my day that I can see them coming. The worst one, absolutely one of the worst, was actually in Thor Ragnarok when Mark Ruffalo's character Bruce Banner jumps out of the ship and he thinks he's going to turn into the Hulk on the way down, and he doesn't, and he lands flat, and it's supposed to be funny, and I just thought it was pathetic. But anyway, back to the Suicide Squad. Margot Robbie does her thing as she does as Harley Quinn. I didn't like Birds of Prey, the one where she was kind of the key figure. I've never been a big Harley Quinn fan, just the character in general, even though I enjoy the animated series on HBO Max, and I really enjoy Margot Robbie's portrayal of what she's done with the character of Harley Quinn live action. Now, I think she said in an interview a couple days ago she might take a break from Harley Quinn for a while, which is understandable, but, I could see her playing this character several more times. I think she works best more as a supporting character rather than the center because, like I said, Birds of Prey centered around that type of character. I couldn't get into the film. There was a lot of problems with that film. I think centering it around Harley Quinn was one of them. Like I said, Bloodsport, Idris Elba did great. He's got the daughter. Like I said, him and Will Smith's character Deadshot, very similar. They both have daughters, and they're both semi good guys, just doing bad stuff. I totally understand. Of course, there was the mention, with the reason he was in prison was that he shot a kryptonite bullet at Superman. So there's your reference right there. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, bringing it. Viola Davis, such a powerhouse of an actress, and to play this stone cold bitch was great. She brought it just like she did in the last film, and hopefully we'll see more of her. I will say I'm curious what she's going to do with her subordinates. Obviously, she didn't see them conking her over the head as she was about to kill Bloodsport, but I'm sure she knows or can figure out what happened. So what she's going to do to them, I don't know. But, she's the type of character, I don't think she's going to let that grudge go. Another character that made it out alive, surprisingly, was the character of Weasel, played by James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn. He also had a small cameo as where you could see his face as one of the prisoners in the film, too. And, of course, if you don't remember, Sean Gunn, he also played several characters in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was the stop motion character of Rocket. Yes, Bradley Cooper did the voice of Rocket Raccoon, but it was Sean Gunn who actually did the actual stop motion animation for it. And he also played Kraglin, is that his name? One of the Ravengers, the one that ends up with Yondu's headset at the end, and the arrow, all that. Kind of like I would say the second most important Ravenger out of all of them, next to Taserface. And then the rest of the squad, quote unquote, are pretty much all cameos. Killing Captain Boomerang, Jai Courtney early on, I think, gives you a little precedent that no characters are really going to be safe, given that he was one of the ones from the original, but he got knocked out early. Nathan Fillion as TDK, knocked out. Pete Davidson as Blackguard, gone. And like I said, we thought Weasel was dead. Turns out he's not. He ran off to the island. Where he goes, I don't know. And honestly, I'm not a big enough fan of the character to care. Another great cameo was John Ostrander. If you don't know him, he's actually the guy who created the Suicide Squad comic book. He played the doctor at the beginning who injected Raven? What was his name? Savant, that's what it is. Sorry, Savant. So many damn characters with his explosive chip at the beginning of it all. And then rounding out the main cast, of course, you have Ratcatcher 2, who I really feel was the heart of this film. What she did and the great memories of her father, played by Taika Waititi, of course. That, yes, her father, the original Ratcatcher, not a great man, but he treated his daughter and loved his daughter, and that came through with the way she spoke about him. Of course, the great line, in the flashback at the end, talking about how, rats have their purpose just as everyone does in life. And then the other great quote from this film that I took away was at the beginning when she was talking to King Shark. Has something to do with, I forget exactly how it goes, but if I died for love, then that would probably be the best thing to die for. Paraphrasing, and I totally fucked it up, but that's pretty much the gist of it, which I thought was a good quote too. But I thought she did great. In this film, the character really shined, and that's what I liked. Probably what drew me in is the fact that this film, its main characters, the main top 4 or 5 characters, you really did care about. And that's what, you want in a movie, is to have characters you care about. I didn't care about a lot of the characters in the original Suicide Squad film, aside from maybe Will Smith's character. The rest of them, I could have died and I wouldn't have cared. Some of them did die. But this one, I wanted, Bloodsport to make it. I wanted Ratcatcher to make it. I wanted King Shark voiced by Sylvester Stallone, to make it. And, again, with that character, did a really good job of, doesn't say a lot, but you can tell the character was wanting someone, friends, and he found that with Ratcatcher 2 and the rest of the team. That character worked very well with it too. And kind of the big baddies of this film, you had former Doctor Who Peter Capaldi as the Thinker. Did a fine job. But you come to find out the Thinker, of course, had been experimenting on the alien known as Starro for 30 years. And that's what the Suicide Squad was there to do, to take out Starro and any information that would lead back to the Americans, who were the ones that actually were funding the whole Starro program for decades upon decades. And then, of course, you get the Rick Flag Peacemaker fight, yada, yada, yada. Starro, I was so excited when they mentioned Starro, or that there was going to be Starro in this film, because Starro is the original Justice League villain. Like in the first Justice League comic, the Justice League fights Starro. It was so interesting. The character is so out there and so sci-fi and so weird that the fact that they put him in this film kind of lets you know just how, far we're coming in regards to the comic book film genre. That, we got, stepped out there a little bit with, Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy. And now the Marvel universe is crossing over to multiverses. I think general audiences are accepting more and more as they're being eased into just how crazy and wacky comic book and worlds can get. And I think Starro was definitely a step into the weird. But the fact that it happened in a James Gunn film, in a Suicide Squad film, with this wacky band of characters, with a guy who throws polka dots, which, by the way, was awesome. I mean, come on, Polka Dot Man? Who the hell ever cared about Polka Dot Man? But see how badass he was. I'm honestly thinking that it might be my Halloween costume, because it's going to be so goddamn easy to make. And, like I said, he was totally badass. Batshit crazy like Norman Bates, but totally badass powers. And yeah, Starro, you could say it's a villain too, but really, I mean, in the end, it was the one that was captured and experimented on, and all it wanted to do was get out. And yes, it tore up the city, and it had to be killed, but it's just as much as a victim as the Suicide Squad or any of those townspeople, to say the least. Where it goes from here, I don't know, because the film didn't do great numbers. You could say it's part of the COVID era that we're living in, and not many people going to the theaters. You could say it's because that the whole day and date release on HBO Max, people can just watch it at home instead of spending the money in theaters, which is a whole nother thing to go into. But again, it didn't do numbers like they'd hoped. But it is, I think, getting mostly good reviews. So whether, they let James Gunn take a crack at another Suicide Squad film, or whether they'll make one without him, I know that they've said, James Gunn does or has had talks about Warner Brothers with doing more DC films. Of course, he's still got to go back to Marvel and finish up not only Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but also a Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special before then too. I like that he's doing these films. I like him as a director, but because I like him as a director, I would hope that he steps out of the genre to do more things, one more personal things. Slither, I've seen Slither. Again, I'm not a huge horror fan, which, is something that he's most known for, the film Slither, outside of Guardians of the Galaxy. But given his talents from what I've seen within the comic book film universe, I think I'd like to see him make some more films within the genre, but also step outside and try something else, because now I think he's becoming more household name with film fans compared to before Guardians of the Galaxy. Now I think, a person like me will follow him outside of the genre and see what else he can do. And hopefully, it be enjoyable as his other films. So there you have it, guys. The Suicide Squad's in theaters or on HBO Max right now. Fire back. Let me know what you thought about it, of course. Did you like it? Not like it? How do you compare it to the other Suicide Squad film that came out? Like I said, I like this a lot more just because I was such a disappointed in the original Suicide Squad film. Not to say I'm a huge Suicide Squad fan, but first one really disappointed me. Although I thought about it, and I'm not sure I've seen it since I saw it in theaters. Maybe I should take another crack at it, but I have bad memories of it, so I don't know if I really want to do that. This one, I was talking to my friend JR online, or texting, I think is what we were doing, and I actually put this film number 4 in my DCEU film rankings behind the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. Put this number 4. And I told them the main reason, I'm not thinking this film is like amazing, but the reason I rank it so high is because most of the other films in the DCEU haven't been that great, in my opinion. So that's why it's a little higher than it would be, or maybe should be, in the list. So like I said, not a perfect film, but I enjoyed it. Would I add it to my collection or Blu-ray collection? Probably not. You know, that's kind of the determining factor for me. It's going to be on HBO Max and everywhere else. I can watch it probably very easily or rent it pretty easily. So I don't see myself buying the physical media copy of this one, but I would love to go back, before it leaves HBO Max in the next month or so and check it out again, just to see if there's anything else I can pick up from it. But like I said, I liked it. I didn't love it. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, fireback, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com, the Facebook group, Twitter, and you can find me personally, Slim Dayspring12 on Twitter and Instagram. Let's see here. What do we got coming up for next week? Bad Batch, the Star Wars animated series, it's got the last episode on Friday. Hopefully I can get Lisa to come jump on here and talk a little bit about it, since she's been watching that with me. What If, the animated Marvel series, debuts on HBO, no, not HBO, oops, wrong streaming service, on Disney Plus on Wednesday. Again, that's something maybe Lisa can help comment. We'll see if I can get her on for next week's show. And then whatever else news pops up, we'll hopefully talk about it either on here or on the social media accounts, guys. But for now, that is going to be it for me today. Go out, enjoy your week, enjoy your lives, and until next time, may the Force be with us all.